Massimo. You call me Rushard as revenge. Massimo's going to do the recording, but each week, whoever sits here, if we just all sort of take turns, and maybe so you're not stuck doing it the whole time in case you get bored, maybe we can just sort of swap around a little bit over time.
8, 1, 5, 9, 4, 8, 1.
Now, while I'm doing this,
9, 4, 6.
don't sit there wasting time doing nothing. Can you say hello to the person on either side of you? And if you already know the person on either side of you, then say hello to the person behind you.
0.
Because we're all going to get to know each other quite well over this course, so we should at least spend some time chatting and saying hi.
9, 2,
Oh, music to my ears.
4, 9, 5, 4, 0, 0, 0.
It's very nice to see you all. I do like this room. It's a room with windows, which is really lovely to have. It's a rare thing. And also, if there's something more interesting happening on the stairs, we can look at that. And if ever any of you want to just distract me during the lecture, then dress as a lion and run up and down the stairs or something while I'm trying to talk. And that would be very cool. So security engineering is this course. We're doing something really interesting. So I should start off by talking about that before I talk about the course. For the first time ever, we're running this course simultaneously with MOOC, so we're making it open. So everyone in the world that wanted to sign up can do it. Now, there's a lot of keen people. There's about 5,000 people. Has anyone been watching or having a look at it? It's about 5,000 people, yeah, who have signed up to do it. So what we're going to do is we're recording the lecture. Massimo. It's 3 times I got it wrong. What's that? Oh, okay. Does anyone else speak Italian? Oh, I'm very jealous. Oh, yeah. I know you, but I can't remember your name. Adam. Adam, hello. It's nice to have you back. Yes, after 1917, maybe 2 years ago. Okay. So they'll be doing the course with us, so that's interesting. So what it means is we'll record each lecture each week. We'll put them up. If there's anything scandalous we say or anything is said about something that we realise later on is libelous or crazy or something like that, we'll edit it out. If there's anything you don't want us to say, tell me before I post it live and I'll edit it out. So can someone just call out rubbish? Rubbish! Oh, that was good, but I need more people calling it out. Please, 1, 2, 3. Rubbish! Warms the cockles of my lecture at heart. And if you could do that in every lecture this week, just for the first week, it makes all lecturers really happy if you just call out rubbish at random times in the lecture. All right, so security engineering. So here's the plan for today. First of all, I'm going to quickly tell you what the course is about. Then I'm going to quickly tell you how the course is organised. Not in too much detail because it's all written down on the website, which you can see on Wednesday but not now, so I'll tell you a little bit now so you're a bit calmer. And then we'll jump in and we'll start covering an introduction to the 3 different aspects of the course, and I'll give you a little bit of homework to do, and that'll be the end. And at the end of the course then, if we have time in the room left, because there's no one coming in after us, each week I plan to, or most weeks, I plan to show a movie. So we'll watch a movie tonight. So anyone that wants to hang back is welcome to hang back and watch the movie with us. Sometimes we get, do we ever get popcorn or pizza or? Yeah, sometimes, all the time, yeah. So in future weeks, sometimes we get popcorn. So everyone's welcome to hang back if you want. It's a movie that has some relevance to what we're talking about each week. But it's basically, we just do it for fun. So you're welcome to stay back or not as you wish. And the last thing to say, I think, probably before I jump in, is I do want this to be an interactive course. I really love it when a course is more than just transmission of facts from me to you to the exam paper. I really like it when you sort of enjoy a course and you become interested in it and perhaps a little bit inspired by the content material and you start to have pleasure learning it. And I find that tends to happen best when people help each other and work together. So we're going to be a close community. The undergrads that I've already seen who've already been in my course, who's already been in one of my undergrad courses? So some of the undergrads, that's nice. Welcome back, guys. Have probably already experienced this. This way we try and have a community and we're all quite friendly and chatty. The postgrads, it might be new to you, so please don't be shy. Do join in, chat, say things, call out rubbish occasionally, or often, and I think you'll get more out of the course if you join in. If you just sit back and are passive and just sit there, I don't think it works as well. Get out of my class. Okay, see you, Jordan. There you go. All right, so without much further ado, let's start. Here's the course, Security Engineering. Now, how we're going to do course notes is each week different people will take notes and put them up on the site. And once they're up, then everyone should edit them. And we collaboratively build a set of course notes. When we come to the final exam, I print the notes out and hand them to you, and you have them in the final exam, and they're the course textbook. So make sure you take good notes. And if you look at other people's notes and there's wrong things in them, correct them and fix them up. And by the end, we normally have a pretty awesome textbook. But we haven't allocated anyone for the first week, because it's the first week. And the allocation happens in shoots. So if everyone could take notes today, that'd be great. And on Wednesday, when the site goes up, if you could rush in and just try and put your notes in or consolidate them with the notes that are there, if there's things missing or errors, that'd be great. So, welcome. Hello, everyone. What the course is about? Well, the course is about 4 things. We want you to, at the end of the course, think like a security engineer. This is not a hacking course. Though we will look at hacking and you'll learn a bit of hacking. But really it's a security engineering course. Security engineering is applying the ideas of engineering, which are we can make a bridge and when we drive across it, it won't fall down and it's relatively safe. Or given a collection of imperfect components, we can assemble them together to make a building that's structurally safe, or a computer that's structurally safe, or a self-driving car that's safe. So the idea of engineers is they work with notions of complexity. They take simple things, they put them together and they make them reliable. And engineering as a discipline is a way of thinking which has proved quite successful over the years, to the extent that in most countries now, if you're an engineer, you have certain abilities under law even. Some things can't be made unless an engineer signs off on them. Some things require engineers to look at them. So engineers are normally around the world seen as highly respected because of the skills they have, and we'd like to apply those skills to security, because security at the moment is not really like that, except in a few places. Security at the moment, cybersecurity, I mean, is, well, it's a discipline that's just sort of grown organically, and problems have grown probably faster than solutions have grown, so it's always a bit frantic and in a bit of a rush. And things have emerged and ideas have appeared, but basically everyone's always rushing just as fast as they can to do the best they can. So it's only relatively recently that people have started to think, maybe we should think about this more holistically, and we should have a more systematic and analytical approach, and perhaps there are some problems we can solve. At the moment, if any of you has a Mac or a Windows machine or anything like that, I bet every month, several times, your machine gets updated because of security flaws. And let's be really frank, those flaws are errors. They're terrible, terrible mistakes made by the people that wrote that software. Now, Apple's software and Microsoft software has had so many eyes looking over it, has gone through so much quality assurance, is so important and critical to the company. They desperately want it to be bug-free, to not have security errors in it, and every month we find more. So we haven't yet really hit the notion of security engineering. We know how to make a safe bridge. No one yet really knows how to write safe software. And we fail catastrophically at it every single time. No matter what device you've got in front of you now, it will have a vulnerability in it, at least one. It'll have many. It will be compromisable. It will be, and the NSA or other big purchasers of bugs, because the NSA tends to purchase them now rather than discovering them, will be able to get into, if not now, at one point in the future, any machine you've got now. There is no notion of a safe machine because everything we've got is riddled with errors. That's the state of security at the moment. So we're going to try and approach this in an engineering approach and get you to think in a particular way. And how do we assess that you can think in a particular way? It's a bit trickier for us, so we've got some creative things to do. And how do we teach you to think in a particular way? Well, it's not something you get by listening to me and nodding and writing down notes. Thinking in a particular way comes from practicing and applying your knowledge and checking it out and trying it with other people, and then in yourself eventually becoming convinced it's right and adopting it. If you just sort of nod and listen but then forget it when you walk out, that hasn't really done anything except to give the ability to pass an exam. We really hope that you'll change as a result of doing this course and to develop a new or modified way of thinking, and we call that thinking like a security engineer. So the first third of this week and the first third of each week, I'll be talking about what it is to think like a security engineer, and we'll start deconstructing that. Second of all, cybersecurity literacy. So cybersecurity is a big field. It's got a lot of jargon in it, lots of concepts, and you just need to know these before you can, well, so you don't look like an idiot. And before you can do anything more advanced, you need to have a broad understanding of the field. So we're going to quickly cover in this short course all the basic elements of cybersecurity. So at the end of it, you'll have had a taste of everything. And for those of you who have a technical background, we'll have some simple war games. So and each week there'll be some fun games for you to get. War games are like little challenges you go through. I think the best way of learning cyber is, sure, we talk a bit of theory, but it's better to then apply it. So they'll just be weekly challenges. Do the best you can on them. There's no marks for them. You're just doing it to learn the skill. There's actually not many marks for anything in the course. Just do the things that you're interested in. At the end, I'll talk about where all the marks are. But hopefully, my objective is you'll think like a security engineer, you'll have cybersecurity literacy and be able to apply it with simple war games. Crypto literacy, so we'll teach you a little bit about crypto. Some of you may already know a lot about cryptography. We'll look at cryptanalysis, how to break codes, and we'll look at the properties of the various cryptographic primitives and how you can join them together to achieve things. We're not going to spend a ridiculous amount of time on that, but we have to cover the basics so you know, because the secure systems that we have are sort of built, the Lego blocks they're assembled out of are what we call cryptographic primitives. So when you design a system, you tend to work out, I've got this hash function, I've got this particular cipher, and I've got this particular notion of a nonce, and I combine them in this particular way to give me a protocol that achieves this. You layer all that together, and lo and behold, you've got SSH. And so we need to know a bit of literacy, so we'll cover that. And last of all, professional skills. So I talk a lot with cyber employers. So cyber is a big thing at the moment, and everyone's desperate to employ cyber people. And there'll be lots of people that contact us during the course wanting to get your contact details and wondering how the people are going and who's doing well and who's the best and who's the worst. I'm sure we'll have prizes and scholarships and all sorts of things to hand out. There's just lots of goodies around because everyone's very desperate to hire good cyber people. But the biggest grumble most people have when they hire cyber people is either they're not particularly technical, it's hard to find people who are really technical, or they're technical but they're useless in front of clients. So you can't actually give them a job and they'll achieve it. So what we want to do in this course is give you both. I'm sort of hoping that by the end of this course you have an idea of the actual skills you need to do cyber as well as knowing about it. So how to interact with clients, because in any business everyone's a client. Sometimes it's just your boss or the CEO who walks by and gives you a task. So how do you do it in such a way that that person's happy with you? How do you understand what they really want you to do? That sort of boring stuff. But it's actually not boring. We'll find some fun and interesting things to do there. So that's the structure of the course, and we'll do a little bit of that each week. Each week you'll make a blog entry, so you'll talk about what you've done that week in the course. By the end of the course, they'll serve as evidence for your portfolio, because you'll hand in a portfolio at the end that demonstrates your skills. So each week you'll make a blog entry, and in the blog entry I'd like you to, so once a week, write a little bit about each of these things. So something you've learned, something you've done, some new insight or realization, some reflection you've had under each of these categories, and assemble them each week, and then by the end you'll have 12 or 13 of these, and the final portfolio will be very simple to write. Whew. Okay, and then one last little bit of intro. It's just me talking and you listening at the moment, isn't it? We'll do something fun in a sec. The last thing to say is, after taking this course, you are able to proceed to the other UNSW computing security courses covering topics in... Yeah, question?
Which one's next semester?
Next semester, we're running 9447, which is an exploitation course, which is really awesome. So that's teaching you essentially to do capture the flag competitions, attack, find vulnerabilities and exploit them, and with a little bit of defense. It's a really awesome course. So other topics are forensics, penetration testing, memory corruption and exploitation, software assurance, incident response, malware analysis and reversing. Reversing means you get a bit of malware, but you've normally only got the binary and you want to work out what it does so you can fix it, rectify it, protect it against it or whatever. So you have to reverse it. You have to go from machine code back to C or C++ or whatever it was written in. Reversing is really fun, and it actually improves your general programming anyway to understand the link between the binary and the source code. So that's a really fun course. Cryptanalysis, how to hack and attack codes. Professional issues and leadership and security. So ultimately I assume you all will want to rise up and become more and more senior, because in security, unlike in lots of fields, more and more senior means more and more awesome, and you get to do awesome things. So that's really fun. Web application security, there's a million web applications out there. They're probably the most vulnerable thing, and they're all crap, so we need to know about how to write them and how to test them and how to attack them and all those things put together. Then we've got special projects and a masterclass. So all those things follow on from this course. So this course is like the door opening course. But I am itching to get into the meat of the course. So first, we're now going to go through our three things. First of all, we're going to talk about security engineering. Then we're going to talk a little bit about crypto literacy. And then we're going to talk a little bit about, cyber literacy. Then a little bit of crypto literacy. And each week I'm going to try and spend about an hour on each of those. Today I'll have to be faster. Security engineering. So important things to notice. To be a security engineer, you have to have analytical skills. So what we don't want is at the end of this course, you're graduating from the course, and then someone in the outside world showing you a problem, and you're going, I guess I do this. As soon as you see a problem, what we want you to do is think, this problem has these 4 interesting features. It has these 2 risks. It has this thing, but I don't have to worry about that so much. And it has this, which could be catastrophic. And just somehow, we call it having security eyes. You look over the problem and you just scope out what are the most important elements of the problem. Because real-world security, real-world situations are very complex and messy. And they've got millions of factors and features in them. And the trick about being a good security engineer is you look over it and you see the 1 or 2 most important things. So you'll see that in the case studies as we do them. There'll be lots of distracting information in there, and you can talk for hours and hours about distracting things. But there'll be 1 or 2 key things that if you got wrong, the whole thing would be a disaster. And if you get right, then it's probably sort of you've done most of the battle. So analytical skills are everything to us. So throughout this course, we really want you to demonstrate analytical skills. Now that's not something you can get out of a textbook. And I don't even think it's something you can get by watching other people analyse. Though I do think other people analysing is interesting to watch. I think the only way you can develop your analytical skills is by practicing them. So please make sure every week there'll be lots of opportunities to do analysis. Don't just sit there quietly thinking, oh, I'll wait till everyone else analyses it and then I'll look at the answers and then I'll know what an analysis looks like. Throw your own analysis in. It doesn't matter if you get it right or wrong, just throw it in and get the feedback on, yep, that was good, that wasn't good, and participate. I think the only way to learn analysis is do it. I hope that as you walk through the world now, you analyse everything you see. Once this course starts, if we get it right, you walk around looking for security everywhere. And that's sort of why we watch the movies at the end. We watch the movie, but then we analyse the movie. We look at security in the movie. All right, now there's some sort of things that I think make a good security engineer. What's the next term in this sequence? Let's talk about ways of solving it. Guess a random number, Google the sequence and see what the next one is. Okay. None of those involve analysis. None of those are particularly useful skills. It's lovely that you know how to use Google. In this course, I'm sure there's many things you'll be able to Google and look up. And you're welcome to do it if you want, because nothing's worth any marks. So you're not cheating by doing it. But I think you're cheating yourself. And the example I've got is, I've not recently now, for about a year, been trying to solve cryptic crosswords. I don't know if anyone's tried to solve cryptic crosswords. They don't make any sense. You look at the clue and it says, the dog exploded with a green balloon, and the answer is sausage. And you go, what? So yeah, you could Google it and that's fine. With crosswords, which are really hard, I've realised, actually, the best way of solving them. And now I can sit down on the train and just get the whole crossword out and really impress the person next to me. Do you know how I do it? I get the next day's paper. I turn to the crossword section and it has the answer in it. The whole answer is just sitting there. So then I take the yesterday's paper and sit on the train and I just fill them in because I know the answers because I found them in the next day's paper. I hope everyone can see that's completely ridiculous, because the point of doing the crossword is it gives me pleasure to do it. It's the process of doing it that's important, not having the right answer. I know the way we run our education system sometimes makes you think that getting the right answer is the point of education, but actually I prefer wrong answers to right answers very often. The point of doing education is going through the process, and the process here is analysis and thinking. So everything we do you'll be able to Google and look up, and go for it if that's the sort of way you want to be, that's fine. But can I suggest you don't? Can I suggest that you just hold back on looking it up and try and solve it yourself? And if you can't solve it straight away, don't worry, just keep working on it and thinking about it. I've got some problems that I've had for more than 20 years that I've not solved, but I'm damned if I'm ever going to Google them, because one day I might work them out. Every now and then I have a little breakthrough on, I got a light switch problem recently, you know, some of those logical problems with light switches and things. I got one out that I had since 1997. Just recently I was explaining it to someone, and when I was telling them I suddenly thought, got the answer. So I'm glad I didn't Google it, because that moment is really joyous, but also the process of going through analysis is what helps you analyse. So yeah, do try and work out the next number in the series. Is it 68? It could be. Or 69, it could be. I love this. It's fantastic. Now, just like our case studies, I'm not going to tell you what the right answer is. So you just have to demonstrate to yourself that you've got it right. And the best thing about case studies is, I spoke to a woman once who did some case studies at Harvard, and she said, I still think about some of those case studies I did. They never told us what the right answer was, though they gave us suggestions of good ways to think. And I still think about them some now, and she's a big CEO and an important person. She said, even now, I still debate in my mind, should I have done that or should I have done that? So yeah, keep thinking about this, work out the answer, then convince yourself it's right. And the best way of convincing yourself it's right is... telling it to other people? Yeah, that's right. You want someone to try and prove it wrong. The best way you can know something's right is when someone fails to prove it wrong. Proving things are right rarely works. In mathematics, I know it does sometimes. But in real life, it never works. When you prove something right, you just come up with the answer you expected to see. It's very hard to prove yourself wrong, so the idea of showing it to other people is a very good idea. They'll be more incentivized to prove you wrong probably than you are. And yeah, multiple points. If multiple people agree with something, that gives you more confidence. So that's a really good answer. It's an engineering answer. It's called peer review in engineering, and we do it quite a lot. It's a very good thing. Okay, security engineering. Things go wrong. Why? Why do things go wrong? Why do we even need security? Because things go wrong all the time. So what's the fundamental sort of dimensions, not dimensions, contributors towards security, the elements, the atoms of security, the things that lead to things going wrong? There's been a lot of interest after 9/11 in security and issues of security. And in particular, how can we be sure that something's secure? How can we be confident something's secure? The government spends a very large amount of money on airport security, even more in the States. How do they know that that was money well spent? How do they know the level of security they've got? There's no point spending $1 billion on one thing if you forget about another thing that renders the first thing irrelevant. So knowing that you can assure security is a really interesting question, and it's really hard to do. So Microsoft and Apple would really like to be able to say, I know this iPhone is safe. I know it can't be hacked. Now we don't know any foolproof way of finding that things are right. But using your strategy, we've got a couple of techniques, and one of them is you get lots of eyes looking at it. You never do things secretly. You try as much as possible to get lots of eyes looking at things. There's this old fallacy called security through obscurity that have you heard of security through obscurity? Tell us, what's security through obscurity?
It's the idea that if you make whatever piece of software really, really convoluted, then it's impossible to hack. That's what people think. But it really doesn't work because you just have to...
Because the... Yeah.
An attacker can just gradually work towards removing the layers of obscurity.
Yes. We always think making things more complicated will help us, and making things more secret will help us. A guy, I've forgotten his name. Is it Chris? Someone could look that up maybe. Oh, and I should say, I really like skepticism and not believing I say things. When I say them, you shouldn't believe it. You shouldn't believe anything anyone says. So I do often, in many courses, tell deliberate lies so you can never be sure that anything I've said is correct. Now, I'm also really forgetful and hopeless, so I probably won't need to in this course. I'll probably get lots of things wrong anyway.
Can I amend slightly what I said before, because I don't
Yes.
think it was right. The main problem with security by obscurity is the complexity makes it likely that there's more mistakes.
That's another, I hadn't even thought of that, yeah. By making things obscure, you're essentially relying on something that you have no assurance of. So if I tied a really complicated knot to stop you stealing something, but I can't really analyze knots very well, so I just make it complicated by putting lots more knots on it. It's really hard for me to assess if I've increased the security or not by doing it. And as you pointed out, sometimes by making something more complex, you're actually introducing more vulnerabilities. Basically, the thing is obscurity is hard to analyze. So it's not going to give you the assurance you want, but it's normally quite easy to undo. Can I tell you a story about obscurity? I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to say middle of the 1800s, but I could be slightly wrong. There was a period called the period of the Black Chambers, or the hidden mail rooms. And what would happen around Europe is that each country, each kingdom, each king would have a special code that was used to communicate, say, with embassies in other countries and ambassadors and emissaries carrying out business. So the French guy would send coded letters to his French servants in England who were carrying out trade deals, the French king would. And of course, because the messages travelled through an insecure medium, from horse to boat to post, and perhaps through the English postal system for a while and so on and so on, you could never trust that the thing would be secure. So they used codes to keep them secure. And the idea of a code in those days was an obscurity. As long as you didn't know how the code worked, you couldn't undo it. But if you knew how the code worked, then you could undo it. So it was entirely sort of tied up in obscurity initially. Now, at that time, there was this interesting thing going on. In Vienna, the mail bags to every embassy would be brought into this secret room, this black chamber, first thing in the morning, and very quickly all the letters would be steamed open, and then each letter would be decoded. The English letters would be in one pile, and they'd be decoded by the English branch, and so on and so on. The French ones would be decoded and so on. Everything would be decoded, neatly copied out, the envelopes would be resealed, and the packages would be sent on to the embassies. So Vienna knew they could decode every country's code. And a similar thing happened in Britain, and a similar thing happened in France. And this is the crazy thing, and this is a lesson for us out of this. Every country knew they could decode every other country. Every country also thought their code was unbreakable. And this is sort of getting to the heart of one of the problems of security, that you overestimate. Oh, here's what I used to do in this course when it was much smaller. We'd go down to, I think it was even this building, but it's different now, it's been re-renovated. We'd go down to the ground floor of this building and there's a lift foyer surrounded by glass and it's got security doors around it. And we'd look into it and I'd say to the people, everyone just tell me all the physical security mechanisms you can see in this lift foyer. Work in teams. And every team would write down all the security mechanisms they could see that would stop someone getting into the lift foyer unless they're entitled. And at the end of that, and they'd find lots of them, and there were clever ones, like the visibility meant it was visible from the street, and the guard would walk up and down the street, so you had that fear of being caught, and they had movement sensors, but they were of a particular sort, so they couldn't be tricked in various ways, and they had a PIN number, but it was put in a covered hood, so you couldn't even see when someone was typing. And they just listed all the security features, and then I'd say, assess the security of the building. And they would all say, this security is really good. Actually, someone's put a lot of thought into this. And I said, how hard do you think it would be to break in? And they said it would be very difficult for someone to break in. This is very secure. And I'd say, that's fantastic. Thanks, guys. Well done. Now we're going to have a little break. And during the break, the first person to break in gets a Musba. People would always break in within 5 to 10 minutes. Oh, and they weren't allowed to break the law, damage anything, use any extra special equipment other than things lying on the ground nearby, and so on and so on and so on. And every year, people would find different ways of breaking in that were simple and obvious and delightful. And the message behind that was, and I sort of tricked them, by asking them first to list all the security features, I was getting them to think like a defender. And defenders are always wrong. Defenders look at their strongest things and think, this is so strong, no one can ever get in. So the people are looking at their code, they're thinking, so good, never get in. But what we have to do is look like an attacker. When you start to think like an attacker, then you notice not strengths, but weaknesses. And weaknesses are what get exploited in security. And everything is riddled with weaknesses. So I tricked them by making them think like a defender. If we think like a defender, it doesn't work. So this thing about obscurity is, you always think the things that are obscure are so hard to unravel, but actually, they rarely, well, I don't think they ever are. I think the guy was something like Kirchhoff or something like that. He was a crazy guy. You can read about him. He's a really clever man. I think a former teacher and badly done by, and all sorts of interesting things about him. But he had this brilliant idea. He tried to systematize security, and he came up with a list of some principles that he thought security should have, and he had a good one about codes, and it was this: the strength of a code should not reside on the mechanism of the code working being a secret. The strength of a code should reside in the key. You know, every code has a key, or you can come up with code, well, every cipher has a key. If you rely on someone just not knowing something, eventually someone will know something. As I tell my daughters, if you want to keep a secret, because I keep having problems with their friends, I tell them secrets, they tell their friends secrets, and then the friends tell other people, and it's embarrassing. I keep saying to them, you know the number of people you can tell a secret to for it to remain a secret? And they always say, yes, Dad, 1, me, no one else. Tell someone else, it's not a secret anymore. I say, yes! Okay. Okay, so yeah, secrets are no good. Obscurity is no good. You want the entire security of the protocol to reside in a single secret, which is called the key, and you look after the key. Because you can change the key every time and it's okay. But if the secret resides in how the code works, then you're stuffed, because someone's going to get one of your boxes and open it up, and once they've broken one, they've broken them all, because everyone's got the same box to encode and decode. All right, that was a long talk. So here's what I want to do. I want to do an exercise with you guys. I want you to think of a house, and we sometimes say safe as houses. So think of your own house. I want you to work in pairs. So with someone, ideally someone you don't know. If you know someone, just smile at them, but maybe talk to the person on the other side, unless you're sitting between people you know, and you can work that one out. So if you just pair up with someone and write down as quickly as you can 10 ways of breaking into a house. You want to get into a house. 10 ways. Go. You got 5 minutes or something like that. Write a list, because we'll get the best ones.